All right, we're gonna get started. We're gonna start in a pretty traditional way. So we're gonna start laying on our backs. You can adjust the headrest however it's comfortable. Just find the center of the carriage. Bring your heels together and your toes apart and your toes on the bar. And then just press the carriage all the way out. You're on anywhere from 2.5 to 3 springs. Find where your pelvis is neutral. The ribs are kind of softened in and down, and keep that as you press out and in a few times. Pushing out through the back of the legs. Each time you straighten, try to open up the back of your knees fully. Squeeze the inner thighs together. Kind of zipping the inner thighs up. And do this a couple more times. Keep going. Pressing out and pulling back in. And as you continue, see if you can find a smooth, rhythmic, kind of natural fluid flow so it's all one continuous motion. And then we're going to come in about halfway and pulse in towards the stopper, feeling like the knees are reaching out away from the hip sockets. The hip sockets are easy, kind of soft, so the pelvis is staying sacrum heavy on the carriage. Good. And then come all the way back in. Rotate your legs to parallel, feet and knees all the way together, and then press out all the way to straight. If you need to take the feet a little bit apart, you could. If you're a little knock-kneed or if you're a little bow-legged, you could put something between your knees. Once you're there, pushing the bar away, find that length. So you're pushing the foot bar and the shoulder rests away from each other, and then keep that sense of press and length through the torso as you press out and in a few times. Pushing all the way out, straighten the knees fully, feeling like you're opening up the back of your leggings. Good. Each time, straighten all the way. Should kind of feel like the sacrum is touching the carriage, but as you press out, there's a sort of floatiness to it. And then go into those mid-range pulses, so halfway out, all the way in, trying to come all the way into the stopper each time without crashing. Push, pull, push, pull. You're not just riding the springs in, you're actively pulling the carriage back in. And then pause with the carriage about halfway out. You should feel the front of your legs working to hold the carriage here. Lower your heels under the bar and lift your heels. The carriage doesn't need to move much. Lower the heels and open up the feet as you press the ankles open. Try to put even weight through both legs. Lower heels, lift. You're not resting against the stopper. You're pushed out away from it a little bit so that you feel the legs working. Yeah, that's better. And then press the legs all the way out to straight, bend your knees and come all the way back in. Bring your heels up onto the bar. Let's do sits bones distance apart and then press out from there, trying to find that full opening through the front of the hips, using that last inch or two of straightening the knees to move the carriage further out, not just to sink the knees down in towards the ground. Opening the back of the legs, opening the front of the hips. Kind of using your peripheral view to make sure as your knees bend, that the knees point straight up to the ceiling and the legs are staying parallel. Good. And then pulsing in towards the stopper, halfway out, all the way in. And reaching the knees out of the center of the hip socket. 4, 3, 2, and last one, come all the way back in. Take your heels wide to the corners of the bar, rotate your legs, turn out, push all the way out, and make sure you're staying centered. Find that kind of floaty feeling and press all the way out and in a few times. You can either keep doing it like you are right now, just staying turned out, or you can press out and then turn in as you come in. So you're pivoting on your heel on the bar, rotating, turned out and turned in. Good. Try to make it a smooth movement. Nice. One more time. And then everybody turn out and pulses halfway out and in towards the stopper, reaching the knees out away from the center of the hip socket. Again, that softness through the front of the hip joint, kind of fanning open the sits bones. And 4, 3, and then come all the way back in. Come up to sitting and take one of the springs off. So you're on your single leg settings, and then lay back down on your back. Bring your heels on the bar a little bit wider than your hips, and do that same hip release, but it'll feel more like a hip release where you're turning out to press out and turning in to press in. So now it's really light, so it should just feel like you can make it one continuous motion, nice and smooth, versus it being going from one position to the other. It's more circular than that. Reverse it if you can. Turning out one direction, turning in the other. Makes funny noises. And one more time. And come all the way back in. Good. Bring your feet underneath you, sits bones distance apart, and just lift one leg up to tabletop, and then press out. And as you come back in, go into your bicycle motion. So as you push out and in, kind of monitoring your pelvis, that it stays level, that it's not tipping side to side. Still trying to open the back of the knee. Once we've added this leg in the air moving, I think it's easy to forget about all the things that need to happen through the standing leg. So making sure you fully straighten the leg is the biggest one, and making sure the pelvis stays level. Do 2 more here. Good. And then press out and stay and hold. And then in range, so just bending a little bit, pushing the carriage back out, bend a little, like an inch or so. This isn't as fast. It's more a sense of pulling up around the kneecap, trying to feel like those vasti muscles pulling up towards the top of the hip as you press out, trying to not just snap your knee to straight. Your knee's only bending about an inch or 2, maybe. Not a big range of motion. If you don't feel anything at all happening, then you might need to actively concentrate on pulling the kneecap up as your knee straightens. One more time, and then come all the way back in. Set that heel down on the bar, lift the other leg up to tabletop, and push out, and you can add your leg bicycling, using your peripheral view to make sure your legs are staying parallel and on their own sides, aligning from ankle to knee to hip. Bicycling and reaching through the leg. One more time, press out and stay and hold, and then small little bend, press back out. Small little bend, press back out. Trying to feel the pulling up around the kneecap. Doesn't need to be fast. Pressing the leg. Yeah. Just bend your knee like 2 inches or so. It feels a lot easier. Make sure your leg goes all the way to straight, Melanie. Straighten it, bend it a couple inches, then straighten it. Yeah. It's not as exciting as those mid-range to the stopper pulses because it's not as big of muscle groups that you kind of feel, but you should feel something happening here. And this should be the same thing that happens every time you straighten your knee. And then come all the way back in. Put your balls of the feet on the bar, press the carriage out, and just go into a little bit of running, focusing on kind of lengthening the back of the calf and ankle open, push, pull, feeling, opening, opening. Nice and light and prancy. And then bend your knees about halfway in and do the same thing, but with one heel going under the bar, a little push, pull feeling, bouncing the carriage, a little bit out, a little bit in. Yeah, nice carry. And see if you can pulse and pulse and pulse. You still got to lift the ankle up. You're not just dropping the heels under. So if you don't lift the heel up, you're not going to have a very big pulse. Up, up and down, up and down, up and down. Kinda, there we go. That's getting better. And then hold the carriage still and just lift and lower the ankles in place, the carriage staying still. Pushing, pulling, pushing, pulling, moving through the ankles, emphasizing equally the under or the flexion just as much as the lifting of the heel. Yeah, good. And bring the carriage all the way back in. Good. Roll to your side. You can just bring your arm underneath your head and bring your top heel to the corner. Lift your side of your waist, push your top leg back, and then bend and come back in. If you need something under your head, you can, but the arm works pretty well, unless you have tight shoulders. Push out and pull back in. As you're pressing out and you pull back in, try to connect to the back of the hip and try to lengthen through the top side of the waist. So you're not kind of letting that top side collapse. You're reaching it out long the whole time. Nice. Push out and pull in. Should feel like quite a bit of outer hip and glute back of the leg, not just quad, but the quad is definitely working. And then come back in, rotate that top leg, turn out, and a few more here. Try to keep the hips still stacked so you're not letting the pelvis fall backwards on you. Opening up through the hip. Trying to make it full range, so all the way into the stopper and all the way out to straight. And 4 more. Last one. Come back in, rotate your leg to parallel so your knee points straight forward and stretch the bottom leg out long underneath you. Push the carriage out just a little bit away from the stopper, keeping your leg from dropping down. And then just lift and lower the bottom leg. Yes, the bar is there, so it's not like it's a huge range of motion, but you should be able to feel a little bit of inner thigh. And then start to take up that whole space under the bar to do a oval shape, a horizontal oval shape. Yeah, you can go all the way until you bump the front bar. You can bump the top bar. You might be able to bump the back bar, but that's a pretty hard one to find. Most of us don't have that much extension. Round, reverse your direction. Inner thigh working. Holding. And 4, 3, 2, and 1, and just hold the leg underneath you and just do a little pulse from this top hip. Pulse and try to keep the legs wobbling. The knee is going right to the center of the foot. 4, 3, 1, and come all the way back in. Good. Let's roll over and do the other side right away. Once you're laying on your second side, start with your top leg parallel. Top knee reaching straight forward. Waist is really long. Bending your knee and coming back in. And as you press out and in a few times, trying to find length through the top side of the waist. It'll Lift the bottom side of the waist so you still have a curve through the underside of the torso. Pushing out and pulling back in. Keep going, pressing out and pulling back in. Nice, that looks great. As you press out and in, keep that length through the top side of the waist, especially as you come back in, make sure you don't lose the length through the side of the waist. Good. Pushing out and pulling back in. Awesome, one more time. And then rotate the leg turned out and do a few more. Rotate turned out, pressing out and pulling the carriage all the way back in. As you're pressing out and in, keeping that turned out position, try to maintain that feeling of some subtle low-level activity through the torso to help you create length and to oppose the feet. So the feet and the legs are pushing out in one direction, the head is reaching in the other direction to kind of slinky your whole body longer into length. And a few more here. And you'll feel that it's, for some of us, as the leg gets straighter, the leg wants to turn more parallel. Try to use the back of the hip, glute max, deep six ladder rotators to keep from losing your turnout. One more time. And then come back in. Rotate that top leg to parallel. Reach the bottom leg out underneath the bar. Push the carriage out a little bit so you're long through the waist, and just start to articulate that oval shape, holding the carriage just an inch or so away from the stopper. If you push out further, you'll feel it's a little easier. And circling the leg around, using your inner thigh. More or less everything else is still. And reverse your circles, keeping the carriage relatively motion free here. Knee is reaching forward over the front foot, toes, middle of the foot. And last two circles. And then hold the bottom leg still and pulsing through the top leg. Push, pull, push, pull. Kind of slow motion just because the springs are a little bit lighter. Pull the carriage in. Try to get the glute working. And 4, 3, 2, and 1, and come all the way up from there. Come up off of the reformer. Switch to one red spring. And then come onto your hands and knees with your hands near the edges of the shoulder rests. And then put one foot against the bar. Push that leg out to straight, keeping your hands in the same relationship to the shoulders, so you're not letting everything push out further. You're keeping your hands under your shoulders. And then just bend and come back in a couple times, pushing out. And we are in a different relationship with gravity, so all that same detail we were working on still applies here. So as your leg opens, you're trying to get the back of the knee and the front of the hip to fully extend. If you'd like, you can press out and add a flex point. It adds a little more instability. Push, pull, and come in. Press out, flex, point, and come in, and press out. Trying to not let the carriage kind of lose control as you flex and point, that you're still holding that press of the carriage out as the ankle moves. Last two. And last one. And come all the way back in, set that leg down. Hopefully you felt some standing hip glute as well. Other side is going to press out, open through the back of the hip, bend the knee and come back in. And press out and come in a few times. As you push out and you pull the carriage back in, lengthen through the spine, try to find full neutral position. And then add your ankle if you did on the other side, keeping the carriage under control as you flex and point. Yeah, nice. Nice, Joanna. And last 2 times. And last one. And come all the way back in. Good. Turn around to face the other direction. Bring the headrest all the way up. And bring your hands onto the bar. It's pretty light. One spring is not very heavy. So tuck the toes under at the headrest, not the shoulder rest, the headrest, and press your hips forward and try to find a neutral position. You can think of like you're trying to pull the shoulders down to lift the sternum up and through. And then just keeping that, press the carriage out a little from the back of the arms and pull the carriage back in. If it feels like it's too hard, then make the springs a little heavier, but you don't want to be in an extension of the back and flexion of the hips. So you've got to really pull up and open the front of the pelvis, or it won't feel like anything at all. Good. You're a more petite person, you could do this a little lighter, but I wouldn't go much lighter. One more time. Try not to stick the butt out as you go back. Shorten the distance between the ribs and the hips. Yeah, and then come all the way back in. Sit on the carriage with your pelvis against the shoulder rest. Of course, you can adjust the straps as we go, spring tension as we go. Grab both straps in your hands and just start by reaching both arms forward and pressing forward, lowering back down. Open up across the collarbones. Yeah, exactly. Sitting nice and tall. And then on the next one, press all the way up and bring your hands into that salute position. So trying to stay vertical if you can. If you need to lean forward, you can. It makes it a little more manageable. But if you decide to get out of this, just reach the arms all the way forward and lower them. Don't just drop the arms. Exactly. Trying to stay as vertical as you can or in that lean, whichever is more appropriate. Yeah, Dana, just keep the straps from hitting you in the shoulders by keeping the upper arm in the same position the whole time. So if the elbows stay above the shoulders, yeah, that's awesome. You can still bend as much as you want. Just keep those elbows up. Nice. Last 2. And last one, you're going to press the arms all the way to straight and then lower your arms back down. And then press the arms forward again, round your arms like you're hugging a tree trunk, and then open and close a few times. As you're doing this, you're sitting really tall, feeling the back of the shoulders working, trying to not let the knees kind of pop up and down. That tells me your hip flexors are kind of doing more than they should. Open and press 4 more. One more time. And reach the arms forward and lower the arms all the way back down. You can keep the strap that's closer to the camera and switch to your half spring and come to kneeling. You could of course sit if you'd prefer sitting, and just doing a little bit of external rotation here, rotating the elbows, staying in the same place. You're trying to not squeeze your shoulder down and let it get droopy, kind of holding the shoulder where it is. You should feel some work in the back of your rotator cuff happening back there. Yeah, exactly. And just do 2 more. Hopefully you're feeling like that rotator cuff gets a little tired after all that. Then you might be able to go heavier, but definitely move a little bit away from the shoulder rest. And if you do this internal rotation and feel like it's way too light for you, usually people can increase the spring tension for this one. So you decide, keeping the shoulder connected. You're not letting the shoulder roll forward in order to do this. So some connection to the back of the shoulder before the arm moves. I would say average would be 1 red spring for this. Yeah. Nobody wanted to change them. That's okay. And last one, and then return. Step back a little bit more to the middle of the carriage and reach the arms out and go into side twist. Half spring is plenty for this. Using your abdominals to rotate. Trying to lift up really tall. Feeling like your rib cage is centered through the torso, and you're just rotating on top of that centeredness. Good, 1 more time. And then step in closer to the shoulder rest. Start with your arm down by your side. We're only gonna do like 4 to 6 of these. So pressing out from low to high, feeling the shoulder blade rotating on the back, pressing out and lowering the arm down. And good. And then rest. Awesome. Let's just do those few on the other side. So turn around to face the other direction. You can kind of be more in the middle of the carriage, and external rotation. So the strap is in the arm closer to the foot bar. You're trying to stabilize the shoulder, connect to the back of the shoulder blade while you rotate through the humerus or the arm bone. Should feel like something's happening back there in the back of the shoulder blade. Nice. Let's do about 3 more. And last one. And then return the carriage, step a little bit away from the stopper. This is the one where you might go up to about a 1 spring, holding on, internal rotation. So it shouldn't feel like tons of pec, but the pec is working. Feeling, again, the back of the shoulder blade, working to control the movement of the shoulder blade. And 2 more. And then you can step more towards the middle. Half spring should be sufficient, and go into your side twist, rotating through the torso and rotating back towards the pulleys, lifting up and around. As you're lifting, trying to feel like you're keeping the ribs in the center of the torso, not letting them kind of pull down or pop forward, pulling up on the front of the pelvis so it feels like the pelvis is very vertical. 1 more time. And then you'll step closer to the shoulder rest, put the strap in the outside hand, press up and come back down. Stop when your hand is kind of to the outside of the hip. As you're pressing out, if it gets to be too heavy, you can use your free hand on the rope and just assist on that moment that it's too heavy. One more time. And then return the carriage. Awesome. Come off of there and we're gonna get the box out. You can put the foot bar down. And then lay, let's switch to one red spring. And lay on the box, holding onto your straps, chest over the front of the box. Once the ropes are in your hands, flex your upper body forward over the box. So you're in thoracic flexion, but your pelvis is neutral, your legs are reaching out behind you. Start to pull down and lift yourself up into extension. You'll feel there's a simultaneous retraction or pulling together of the shoulder blades behind you, as well as they're drawing down. So depression and retraction in order to give space to the upper back to move. Keep the arms straight as much as possible, palms facing in towards each other. Good. And one more time. Then you're gonna take the arms down and back like you just did, open them out to the side and around to return the carriage. The spine's doing the same movement. So plow into airplane, draw the shoulders down the back, circle around, and lift, circle around. And reverse your circles, a little harder this direction. So you do airplane down into plow. Lift the spine as you come to airplane, flex forward, lift. Yeah, exactly, nice. And lift and around, twice more. Lifting the spine, flexing forward and lift and flex back forward. Good. You can take the straps and just put them on the hooks or the shoulder rest and come into a little shell stretch, child's pose on the box. However it feels good, just stretching the lower spine open. And then stand up on the floor. Let's switch to a half spring just for starting this, and then we'll go from there. So if you take the strap off the shoulder rest that's the closest to you, put it around behind yourself. So you're standing between the rope and the reformer, like the reformer and the rope is around behind you. Then grab the other strap. Should feel pretty easy to move the carriage. Put your hands on the corner of the box and then lay down on the box, facing this head towards the foot bar. Rotate your legs turned out, and you can separate them. And now the arms, it should feel like the ropes are below the legs. Yeah. You're gonna just start by pressing the arms forward and bending the arms again. And if you need to adjust, you can adjust. You also can change the springs relatively easily because you're looking at them. So you're pressing the arms forward towards super person, superhuman, and bending them back in towards the box. Yeah. If you want to add a circling and a lifting of the spine, you can. So you kind of press forward, circle the arms around and lift the spine. We're on pretty light spring tension, so my guess is you won't get very much extension. If you want to make the springs heavier, you'll be able to come up into higher extension because the springs will be assisting you more. Yeah, so reach the arms forward, keep them straight, circle all the way back to your hips. So it's like your swan dive. Keep the arms straight, 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 ginge all the way back to the hips. Yes, somewhere there. And then bend them to go through, circle around and lift up and through, circle around and lift up one more time. Through and circle around and lift up. Then hold on to the sides of the carriage. Yep. Make sure your hands are on the carriage, not on the rails, and then you can just slide off the side. And then once you're standing, let go of the sides of the carriage and you're in control then. Cool. So I'm gonna have you guys shorten your straps. Most of you have this kind of strap that has this D-ring at the end. If you have the kind of straps that's a double loop, you can try that and we'll see how it goes. And then I also want you to grab the middle of the rope and just put a knot in the rope. We need it to be shorter, and this is the quickest way to do it. So pull your D-ring, fold your strap in half, grab the rope, tie a knot in it. And then depending on how tall you are, you might end up needing to move reformer settings as well. You're welcome to adjust if you already know you do, but otherwise let's keep it at this. Put the straps on the rails like mine are down here, just sitting on the rail, and then at least one hand on the box while you put the foot that's closer to you in the strap. And then you're gonna put the other foot in the strap. If you have the kind of rails you can't stand on, I think like Carrie, you'll have to like grab them in one hand and then, you know, circus seal your feet into them. Yeah. And then lay down and hopefully you can get on there without dropping them. If you want to fold them up so they're like more attached further, you can do that as well. And if you get stuck or drop one, just start that whole process again. And then most of the time, you need to scooch forward so your chest is over the front of the box. Cool. And then bring your hands either to the front of the box or the forehead's a little harder, and knees apart, heels together, and pull your heels towards your tail. So I'm only on one red spring. I think Carrie, scoot forward and don't let your knees slide off the sides. I know it's probably slippery, yeah. So if you don't have enough range of motion like Carrie, I don't think you have enough, see if you can adjust your machine in some way to let the carriage come in longer or further, or to make the rope shorter. And I don't know your machine well enough to tell you how to make the rope shorter. Yeah. Okay, so heels are together, knees are apart. Your pubic bone needs to stay down and your back needs to stay neutral. If that's working for you and you're able to stay neutral, then you can add more spring tension. But don't just add it until you know that you can stay neutral. Let me watch a second here. Yeah. Nice, Anne. Yeah, good. Try to pull the heels in towards the tail, keeping your pubic bone down. This is one of those things that, because it's a little fussy to get into, I think we forget about these exercises, but they're such good posterior leg hip work. I wanted to kind of insert them today here. You're also in a position where you could hold the carriage and just adjust your stopper. That would also give you a little bigger range of motion. Carrie, that looks so much better. I don't know what you did, but good. Yeah. Bring your hands to your forehead if they aren't already. You'll feel how you have to work a lot more in your upper back. Awesome. Just do a couple more here. And last one. And then rest for a second. Rotate your legs to parallel. If you've added more spring tension, go back to one red spring. I don't want it to be too heavy. You always can lighten it from here. Make your legs parallel, pubic bone still down, and just pull one heel towards the tail. You can flex your foot. That might help you to activate the back of the leg, but don't drop the strap. Yeah, exactly. You, of course, could make it lighter if you need to. Trying to keep your pelvis centered. One leg at a time, legs parallel. Yeah. If you have just one loop of the strap, then keep your foot pointed or it'll fall off. Good. Hopefully you feel some hamstrings and glutes. And then you can bring the carriage back in. Use one foot to kick the other strap off and just drop it between the rails. And then you're free to slide off to the side once your feet are free. Good. Awesome. Okay, let's bring the foot bar up to the second from the bottom. And let's try 2 red springs and your footwork setting. So I moved my stopper. I'm going to move it back to my footwork stopper setting. This exercise is, again, a good posterior chain exercise. It's not the most comfortable thing. So we're not going to do 1,000. We're just giving it a try today and seeing how much we love it. And then we'll go from there. But you're basically going to lay on the box and you're going to shimmy back so that the carriage is out a little bit, but like the front of my thigh is against the edge of the box, which is not particularly comfortable. And then heels together and toes apart. And I can't bend my knees enough to get the carriage to come in all the way. That's totally fine. Doesn't need to come in all the way. So heels together, toes apart. So it should feel like your arms are kind of free, like you're not holding on for dear life. Just start by pushing your legs out to straight and see if you can lift up into a bit of extension. You can use your arms and then bend your knees. And if you need to shift back, which is usually what needs to happen, do. So you push out and it's mostly kind of your pubic bone on that edge and then come back in. You can keep doing it exactly like you are, or you can lower your arms to the side and reach your arms up into like a super person position. Harder, or keep your hands down, whichever you prefer. But you've got to come up into extension. Yeah, that's right. Good. And Carrie, if it's like slippery, then maybe you'll put a sticky pad or flex band under there next time. Not that we're going to do this exercise all the time, but never know. Awesome, Anne. One more time. The majority of what you should be feeling is a ton of work through the back of the legs and the glutes. And then you can lift your thighs a little, get the carriage to come all the way back in and then slide off to the side. Like I said, we're just introducing this today. Most people find it uncomfortable, just a little. It's not painful, but uncomfortable in the pubic bone and the front of the thighs. But you get used to it. Let's bring the foot bar all the way up. Double check that it's locked. You're on your 2 red springs, so you can keep that and come on up to elephant, round back, pelvis as far over the feet as possible, scooping the lower spine up to the ceiling, pushing out and pulling back in. As you press out and in, try to round your bottom ribs up to the ceiling. If you have tighter hamstrings or ankles, calves, you're welcome to have that like slight high half toe or elevated heel position. Otherwise, bring your feet down towards the horizontal surface so you're more flat. Good. You can stick with this, especially if you have tighter hamstrings, or if you want to lengthen out into neutral as possible, continue. Yeah, nice, Dana. As you pull back in, feel like your sits bones shine kind of up the wall behind you. Good. Trying to keep the arms from pushing out and in, that the shoulders are still, the torso is still, and it's just the legs moving. Good. And last one. And then step 1 foot forward. The foot that's back, lift it up into like a high half toe position. And then I just want you to play with one leg bending, one leg straightening. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I just want it to feel kind of playful and like a bit of a calf stretch, maybe. We're building on something that'll come down the road here. Yeah, just getting the legs moving a little bit. And then switch which leg is back and which is forward. Back heel a little bit lifted and just push pull. It's on the heavier side, so use those legs to move the carriage. And just a couple more seconds here. Playing, experimenting, and come all the way back in. Good. Let's, if your headrest isn't all the way up, bring it all the way up. And we're gonna go into our long stretch. So feet together on the headrest, full plank position. This in some ways is easier than what we did earlier where we were kneeling, because you don't have to have the flexibility in the hip joint, but it's harder for the shoulders for sure. Try not to let the body kind of bow forward as you press out. Yeah, like so Ginge, lift your hips a little bit. Somewhere that, yeah, now they sunk again. Keep them up. Yeah, whatever that is, do that. And last one, nice, Joanna. And come all the way back in. Set your feet down at the shoulder rest, knees down on the carriage. You can either do single thigh stretch at the side of the reformer or on the high bar. We're not going to spend a lot of time doing this. We're just opening up our hips for the next exercise. Push the carriage out, open through the back of the legs, and then pull it back in. Like twice on each side. And switching to the second one. Pushing out, pulling back in. Pushing out and pulling back in. Good. Switch to your 1.5 springs and put your hands on the shoulder rests. 1.5 springs, so it's a little lighter than where we just were. And then stand up on the carriage. Keep touching the shoulder rest. Put one foot in the crease of the headrest. Look at the foot bar. Make sure you can balance on one foot before you just reach your leg back there. And put your foot so the toes are on the side of the bar and the heel is on the full black horizontal part of the bar. Straighten your back leg and deepen your pelvis down so you're in a lunge. Yeah. And then try to press the carriage forward by straightening the knee more and bending it. Back knee stays straight the whole time. Push and pull. As you continue, don't just suddenly let go, but you can bring yourself up a little bit more into your fingertips. So if you're not as flexible, this exercise is harder than if we were to face the other direction. But the other direction, you have to have a lot more balance, which is why I tend towards doing this direction. Back splits versus front splits. Yeah, keep the back leg straight, keep the hips from going up and down. It's the front knee that's changing. Good. Bring the carriage all the way back in and then take your back foot off the bar. Switch which foot is forward, reach the other leg back. Make sure you can balance before you just swing your leg out. Nice. Yeah, it's always good to have an escape strategy. Back leg straight, and then keep the foot bar pushing away from you as you're moving. You're gonna stop the carriage when it's underneath your knee each time. It doesn't matter to me how far your knee straightens. More I care about that stability through the pelvis, getting some nice active length through the hamstrings. Awesome, Joanna, because see if you can lunge down a little lower, like lower your pelvis. Yeah. Few more here. We did a lot on the other side. Good, Melanie. Start to take your weight out of your hands a little bit if you can. Keep them there for safety, but the second I take weight out of them, I realize how much they were helping my glute. And then last one, bring the carriage all the way back in and then you can set your foot down and then step off. Once you're off, then you can take your hands off. Awesome. Okay, so from here, let's face the side in our mermaid position and switch to one red spring. Put your hand on the foot bar and go up and over in your side bend, just your standard mermaid as we all get moving here. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. On your next one, as you go towards the foot bar, side bend and then rotate, slide the back hand out of the way, square your shoulders off to the floor. That should already feel like a bit of a stretch. And then bend and straighten your elbows a few times, rotating your shoulders towards the springs, trying to keep that back sit bone down. The next time your elbows straighten, start to look forward, push down through the arms to lift your spine up into extension, then round through the lower back to push the carriage back out, slide the back hand towards the front, turn to the side and lift up and over. If you don't feel any stretch as you do that rotation part of it, then think more about keeping the pelvis down as you rotate the ribs. So sit bone stays down as much as possible, keep it down as much as possible while you rotate. And then bend and straighten a couple times, pushing and pulling, trying to keep your shoulder stability here. On your next one, when your arms are straight, start to lift your spine up into extension. The carriage will come in, scoop your abs back out, push the foot bar away, slide the back hand towards the front, turn to the side, lift up and over, and side bend. And then reach towards the shoulder rest if you can. If you need to grab your leg instead, that's good too. Push and pull, so you're kind of twisting yourself around, not the feeling of like you're trying to crack your back, but more of an up and vertical lifted position. And then you can release and just turn around to the other side. So hand on the foot bar, just start with your basic mermaid, side bending towards the foot bar and side bending towards the shoulder rest a couple times, and side bending and side bend. On your next one, side bend towards the foot bar, feel the sit bone staying down, set your hand down, slide the back hand out of the way and bend and press through the arms a few times. From the shoulder blade to the opposite side of the pelvis, you should feel some rotation, stretch, lengthening happening. Start to look forward, let the carriage come in, then round your belly back out away from the foot bar to push the carriage back out. Back hand slides towards the front, lift up and over, and side bend towards the shoulder rest. Then repeat that whole thing again. Side bend towards the foot bar, rotate towards the springs, and bend and press. Make sure your shoulders aren't doing weird things here. And one more time, push out when your arms are straight. Start to look forward, lift through the spine, then round the back out. Move the back hand towards the front. Turn to the side, lift up and over and do the counter stretch towards the shoulder rest. And then reach your body up into vertical, push, pull against the shoulder rest. So you're trying to turn and look all the way around yourself, lifting yourself up nice and tall. And then coming back to the center. Put a few springs on here so the carriage can't move easily. And then sit back pretty far. If you find you need more space, put your platform here so you could sit there. And just straddling the carriage, round your upper back and let the bar support you as you go back into a little extension, and you circle the arms forward and sit back up. It depends kind of on your length. So you kind of want the bar to hit you in the middle of your spine. So like Melanie, I would say, yeah, that, or you could leave the foot bar up and just put the platform over the springs so you're back further, which would then give you more support from the bar. Just kind of evening ourselves out. Good, Dana. Take your arms way overhead. And circle around. Yeah, that looks better. Melanie, back up even more. Try that. I know, it's like figuring out that sweet spot. And then on the next one, if it's comfortable to you, stay back there and just bring your hands behind your head. Should be like the bar is kind of hitting you in the bra strap area. And just take a couple breaths here. You can kind of move around a little bit to find different areas that maybe feel good. And then use your arms and come back up. And then you're all done. Good job. Thank you for coming.